I spent another week in the books. Reminder that all content warnings are with the longer write-up on my website. First off, I finished up Lore of the Wilds that I had started last week. In this one, Lore has been raised inside the only human village within her land. They are all trapped there by the ruthless fae that inhabit the woods around it. Escape is impossible, and Lore has the scars to prove it from a previous attempt. However, no matter how much she despises these fae keeping them trapped, when her village is in need of aid, Lore is not opposed to making a deal with the Fae Lord. He is in possession of a library that has been magically sealed shut for a millennium now, and no one of that land can set foot inside. However, there are incredibly magical books inside that he is in great want of, and since humans are not originally from that land, he thinks that might be a loophole. He's willing to risk Lore's life to find out, and with her village's safety on the line, Lore is willing to take that risk too. Last week, I was about halfway through this one when I made my video, and I was already having so much fun with it. That did continue all the way through. I really loved the character voice. That was very believable, very realistic. I loved the unique take on the Fae, where it's not quite what you're seeing in a lot of modern fiction, but it does still feel very, very true to much older folklore. I saw a couple other readers complaining that they couldn't quite tell whether this was a young adult or an adult book. And I can see why that struggle is there. I would put it firmly in the new adult space. We do have a very young voice that would fit well into a young adult category. However, once we're getting a little bit of that spice at the end, it is a little bit more detailed than I would put in a young adult space. But we have a 21-year-old protagonist, and her voice is most assuredly that of a 21-year-old. One struggle that I did see here was a little bit of a pacing issue. The book feels very much like it's split into three distinct sections that didn't necessarily flow together all that well. While I've seen that work well in longer titles that have a very intentional split in those places, this book was a little too short for it to split into sections like that, so it didn't feel quite as clean. Additionally, if I was not able to dive directly into the second book after this, I probably would have been upset by the ending. It didn't make a lot of sense on the surface, and it really did need that follow-up to clarify it. Thankfully, I was able to dive directly into Book 2, Lore of the Tides. This will be coming out tomorrow. A big thank you to HarperCollins, Harper Voyager, and the Nerd Fam for getting both of these books into my hands for me. And yes, this review will remain spoiler-free for both books 1 and 2. In this second installment, Lore thought she was getting a handle on things. She's starting to get a handle on these newfound powers of hers. She thought she knew exactly what all the bad guys wanted, and she thought she knew who she could trust. But it turned out that in at least one of these regards, she was wrong. She finds herself betrayed, held captive, and on board of a ship the first time that is already far from shore and everything that she knows, and only heading further into the distance. Her captor informs her that the mysterious book she found in the library that has granted her these new powers has a companion volume. She is tasked with finding them, this second volume, or else, because she is not the only one they're holding captive on board. So like I said, this book does give pretty immediate relief to that big cliffhanger from book 1. It was explained in a very satisfying way. Additionally, the pacing issue that I talked about in the first book is remedied in the second one, because though it is structured similarly, it is in fact a longer book that is intentionally divided into parts 1, 2, and 3, each titled separately. At this point, I'm roughly 40% of the way through, so I haven't seen the transition from the second to third piece, but I did enjoy the transition from first to second. This time, it is leaning even deeper into that very believable character voice. Lore has been betrayed here, her emotional response to which is very deeply layered. It is complicated and nuanced and even sometimes self-conflicting. It is realistic in every way. I'm also absolutely still loving this world. The more that she's seeing of it, the greater the world building is becoming. The Fae are still absolutely fascinating, and we have now had sirens introduced as well. I cannot wait to see how far we're going to go with these. If you read the first and enjoyed it, or even if you are a little on the fence about it, I definitely recommend getting your hands on the second one. In this duology, you can really see this author finding her voice, and it is turning into a really impressive one very quickly. I am very excited to see what future titles come from her. And as always, you can find a longer write-up of all of this available on my website at writing.hallidaynelson.com. For my next video, I'm actually going to be switching up the video format a little bit and moving away from the weekly recaps and just doing updates book by book. That being said, I still want to know what you're reading too, because my TBR pile is always growing. So I want to know what you are reading and having fun with so that I can add it. And of course, happy reading.